Hey everybody, this is Dr. Gallegos, and let me get my calculator out of the way here and then some of my work. But we're going to be doing some subtraction today that might be a review for you. And in our subtraction, we're going to follow a couple of rules that will help us kind of get through all of this. So let's look at this problem that we have on in our book here. So we have, if you have $4 and you spend $3, well then you have $1 left, right? So in this subtraction example, $1 is called the difference between 4 and 3. So just a operational word for subtraction. When you subtract two numbers, you get the difference between the two. So the way that you do this is you subtract two whole numbers by subtracting the digits place by place. So you're going to first start in the ones place. If you cannot subtract, we're going to do what's called regroup. Another word for regroup is borrow from the next place. Then continue to subtract. So in example 1, using that, we're going to subtract 57 from 885. So 57 from 885. So over here, we're going to start with the ones place, and we have 5 minus 7. So what we're going to do, because we can't do that, we're going to borrow from that 8. So we're going to borrow 1 from that 8. That 8 becomes a 7. And then we borrowed that 1, so the 5 becomes 15. Now I can subtract 15 minus 7, and I can get 8. Now in step number 2, we're going to subtract the tens place. So remember, we borrowed, so we have 7 minus 5, we get 2. Now we go to the hundreds place here. So we have 8 minus 0, that gets us 8. So the difference between 885 and 57 is 828. Let's follow the same rules with borrowing. We're going to find the difference between 903 and 256. We have 3 and 6. That's not going to work, so we're going to have to borrow from that tens place. So we have a 0 here in the tens place, the 10. We're going to borrow 1 from that 10, so it's going to become a 9. So we end up with, so that's going to become a 9. So we're still in our ones place. We borrowed, so that becomes a 13. 13 minus 6 is 7. All right, now we move to the tens place. So that was a 13. We borrowed a 1, and then from the hundreds place, that made a 9 here. So we got 9 minus 5 is 47. Now we had borrowed from that hundreds place, so that means the 9 becomes an 8. So 8 minus 2 is 6. So the difference between 903 and 256 is 647. All right, let's do our try these. In our first try this, we're going to subtract 279 from 638. So over here, we start with the ones place, that we're going to borrow 1 from here, and that's going to become, that 3 is going to become a 2. So, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So this 8 becomes an 18, so we subtract 9 from 18. 18 minus 9, that gets us 9. Now over here, we had borrowed from that hundreds place. This becomes a 12, right? So I've got 12, so I'm going to bring my 9 there. 12 minus 7, and that gets us 5. All right, so we had borrowed from here, right? So then we ended up with 12 over here minus 7, and then we end up with 5 minus 2, that gets us 3. So we end up with 359 as the difference between 638 and 279. So now we have a little bit longer one. We're going to find the difference between 3,042 and 271. Start with the ones place. 2 minus 1 is 1. So tens place, we have to borrow from here, and that becomes a 14. So 2 minus 1 is 1. We already know that. 14 minus 7 is 7. All right, so what became of this over here? So we end up with a 9 over here. So we had 2 minus 1 is 1. We had 14 minus 7 is 7. 9 minus 2 is 7. So the difference of 3,042 and 271 is 2,771. So work on a little bit of your addition of your subtraction problems as well.